But this is the things I've been thinking about. And now, of course, my sons, I'm consciously trying to teach them to be the men they need to be in a world of uncertainty when I'm not there. So, I'm curious what you think when you hear me recount some of that, because you talk to a lot of people about this stuff. But what do you hear in that, or what do you see in that?
Yeah, man, I think a couple of things stand out. The divorce obviously is a big thing that a lot of young men go through, that a lot of men have gone through. And that can displace a boy from his father, just depending on, I don't know what that looked like for you in terms of how often you saw your dad, but I'm a byproduct of divorce as well. My parents got divorced when I was 3. And what ended up happening was that I didn't see my father very often. I saw him once or twice every month over the weekend. And so I didn't really get the consistent masculine presence that I think a lot of boys actually need. And you can see this in the stats in America right now, where 1 in 4 children are going to grow up without a father figure in their household. And that's detrimental, specifically when you dig down into the stats, is detrimental specifically to boys, who end up having higher crime rates and higher rates of ADHD and substance abuse and dropping out of school and ending up in jail and all these types of things. And so what ends up happening is, and I'm not saying that this is your case specifically, but you did sort of earmark something, that there's been this constant pursuit of trying to find really, whether we want to call them healthy male role models or alpha male role models, or just men that you can kind of hone your skills, your edge, your leadership, your understanding of who you are as a man. And that's a very important attribute that in some ways, there's a couple things that have happened culturally within Western society that have strip mined really healthy masculinity, really solid masculinity out of the structures and the systems that we inhabit. So one, we've removed a lot of fathers from the household, directly or indirectly, which has a net negative impact on boys. 2, we've taken out initiation processes or systems where a young boy would get initiated into manhood, and we sort of replaced them with the hazing of fraternities, as you described, which can be, they can be good in some ways and they can be pretty rough in other ways, because there is something about masculinity that requires elderhood, that requires the transmission of maturity from the elder men down through the ranks. And when we don't have that, what ends up happening is a rise in, I don't know if you've ever heard of young man syndrome, but it's this period of time between like 16 and 25, where the highest rates of male mortality occur, the highest rates of overdoses and substance abuse occur, because men go into this stage that, sort of like 18, 19, 20, 21, where we start taking a tremendous amount of risk. We start to sort of buck against the traditional systems and authorities that we have in our life. And we're trying to, what Carl Jung would call, individuate. So we're trying to find our own sense of individuality, sovereignty, self-understanding. And oftentimes how we do that as men is different from women, where we kind of need something to push up against, to sharpen our edges against. And so when there's no really solid, good male role models to do that with, what we end up doing is trying to refine who we are against, externalized authorities, teachers, coaches, which some places can be okay, but for the most part, we're missing that sharpening stone that a lot of men need in that period of their life. And then we're missing the sort of elder men that would normally be transmitting what it looks like for you to step into that next stage as a man, whether it's, you're going into the workforce, you're, entering the legal age, you're getting married, you're becoming a father, all of these responsibilities in life. What's happening for a lot of men is that there's just this epidemic of vacancy. They don't really see anybody that's a good living example. And I think it sounds like you've done a very good job of surrounding yourself with men that can sort of fill some of the gaps that were maybe present for you earlier on in life.
How do you get out of a rat race? How do you create wealth not only for yourself, but also for the generations to come after?
I am absolutely amazed with the quality of companies that we're getting exposure to.
We go on to Zoom calls with the innovators and the folks who are building new applications in metaverse, blockchain, artificial intelligence, decentralized finance.
What's going on, everybody? Thumbs up if you can see me.
We are focusing on early stage investment.
And the quality of people that we're getting exposure to, whether it be Dan Tapiero with 1RT, Jason Ma from Open, Yatsu from Animoca.
It's been a phenomenal experience thus far. It has far exceeded my expectations.
We are focusing on cutting edge technologies.
I view it now as the best investment I've ever made. The upside I view is unlimited.
And as a retail investor, I would never get this exposure anywhere else outside of Investment Club.
See you in the investment club.